Hello everybody, my name is Anna Marie, and for this project I chose to take a look at how women are being represented in current teen new releases. I wanted to look into this topic because I know that most of the books that I love to read have strong female characters, and I was curious to know whether just the books that I see are all containing strong female characters, or whether that trend and that um, pattern of books having strong female characters was really something that was actually happening in current new releases. I know that the idea of feminism and women's rights has been especially prevalent in the media and other news this past few years, and so I just wanted to see if that had any impact on what things were being written and published in teen literature. At the beginning of this project, I knew that I wanted to answer three specific questions. The first question that I wanted to answer is, are females being represented as strong, independent women who can take care of themselves? Are they being represented as damsels in distress who need someone to save them? Or are they kind of somewhere in between the two, not one polar opposite or the other polar opposite? The second question that I know I wanted to answer is, are the women stronger than their male counterparts? Are they weaker than their male counterparts? Do they have the same level of importance to the story as the men in the book with them? And finally, the last question that I know I wanted to answer was, are books with strong female main characters more popular than books with strong male main characters? I chose to use the Alberta Inquiry model for this project because I liked how much of a repeating process it is. Each step continues. It can go in this cycle for as long as you would let it. I also really liked that after each step, the model would remind you to reflect on the process and how your inquiry is going overall. There were 4 main steps in my research project. The first step was to use specific criteria to look at a book to read. After that, I would read the book and then use what I learned through the book to answer my 3 main questions. Following that, I would choose another book to read and then repeat steps 1 through 4. I used a set of criteria when I was choosing which books I wanted to read. First, I knew that I wanted to read books that were newly released. Those books are what's being written currently, and so they would give me a good idea of how women are being represented right now. I also wanted to read books that were popular, books that were either frequently posted about on social medias such as Instagram or Goodreads, books that were frequently checked out at the library, and books that appeared on bestsellers list. I also wanted to make sure that I read books in a variety of genres. I did end up reading the majority science fiction books because I think that is what is the most popular right now. I know when I looked at my teen news section at the library that I work at, I would say about 70% of the books were in the science fiction fantasy genre, but there were a few, about 30%, that were in other genres such as realistic fiction and historical fiction. I ended up reading 6 books that fell into the genre of science fiction fantasy, 2 books that were what I consider dystopian, 1 book that was what I would consider historical fiction, although it did have some elements of magic in it, and 1 book that is what I consider realistic fiction. After I was done reading all the books that I chose for this project, I was able to answer my 3 initial questions. The answer that I came up with for the first question is that the majority of the books that I read, they don't fall to either polar opposite of the all-powerful woman or the damsel in distress. Most of the female characters had bits of strength and bits of weaknesses. I think that if they were insanely powerful with no weaknesses at all, they'd be much harder to relate to for readers. One of the best ways that I know I can relate to characters is when they make a mistake, and it's just kind of like, oh hey, you're human too, you're not this all-powerful being who is higher above and harder to relate to. And 5 of the books that I read had a battle for worlds going on, and even though the female main character was at the lead of the army, she did rely on those around her to pick up her slack and to watch her back. And so there was a nice balance between those two polar opposites. The answer to the second question about whether or not the female character had more importance or more power or more just anything than the main characters that were male, the answer that I came up with was that I did not see any obvious hinting of females being more powerful, more dominant over the males in the stories. There was a nice amount of gender equality, that they each had the same amount of power, the same amount of influence, and the same amount of ability to solve whatever problem that they're working on. The answer to the final question was one that I didn't get much statistical research on. I just was able to answer this based on what I see at work, and that is that books with strong females as the main character are definitely very, very popular right now. Most of the books that I saw that were in our news section, I just would pick up some random book and read the description just to see if it sounded like there was a male main character or female main character, and most of them had a female as the main character. And I knew I didn't want to just go for a book that obviously looked like it had a main female character who was a strong asset. And so I just wanted to, pick books that were focusing on girls. And there seemed to be a lot more books with girls as the main character than there were with boys as the main character. After I finished collecting all my information, I took a moment to think about how it changed the way I view the world, view books, view libraries, view reading, and the answers that I got didn't really surprise me. I already knew that books with strong females as the main character were very popular, although now I am much more aware of what genres of books that I'm reading, and I am going to make it a point to continue to read books that might not be what I would go for as books that I would know that I'm going to enjoy right away, but I do want to get that reading done to further my knowledge, and so that if a patron comes to me and wants a great book, like a realistic fiction great book, I will have a book to give them. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you learned something new, and let me know if you have any questions about it. Thanks. Bye.